The whole purpose of that, I just wanted you to kind of a sense of like what the school looked like, and because I want to talk about some of the elements of being a franchise and selecting a franchise, why it's good and bad to own a franchise. But as you can kind of see, I mean, we've got a pretty nice place. It's in a retail location, so it's not, me opening up something out of my garage and selling, music lessons with Steven and come on in and do do your drum lesson here. We've got kind of a bigger project, which required us to invest a lot more. But when it comes to franchises, there's a ton of them. There's a company called IFA, International Franchise Association. You can get a lot of information from them on different franchises. I went through and Googled. There's a place where you can go, and I can't remember if it's just one a day, but you can go and download something called FDDs, their franchise disclosure documents, where it shows they have to report things like item 19 items, what are the all of the franchisees doing, what's the median numbers, from a revenue standpoint, whether their expenses, how much it costs to launch. Do they have, within FDD, do they have any lawsuits? You can get some general information from those, and usually the companies think they have to update them by every April. I will tell you right now, with COVID, a lot of the companies, as you're looking at them, are going to look like complete crap for a while. So, historically, you may want to look back at some things. But, we started looking at franchises, and franchises can help with a lot of different things. Number one, they can help a ton with your business plan. So when you're going to get funding, I got provided a template that I could use that answered a lot of the questions that the banks wanted to know, but also they're preferred at SBA. They've already been vetted through the SBA. So in our situation, Bach to Rock or other businesses, they've already seen their franchise documents. They already know generally kind of where they're coming from as far as like, if they're profitable, not profitable. But like our business plan was 70 pages long. So it's cumbersome to create something like that. But having a template is very helpful. And I would say the majority of the franchises that we looked at, they had really, pretty good templates that you can use. And as I was talking to other franchise owners, they were willing to share their business documents as well, their business plans. So in, my situation, the guy from South Carolina, he said, "Hey man, I'm happy to send over some stuff." So, some of the data elements that he had was really useful to get those, so that when I'm doing this homework assignment that I'd never done before, it was just helpful to have something that I could kind of use as a reference. Our franchise helped with location selection, lease negotiation. They helped with the business design. So what you see, our Bach to Rock, and I'll touch on this more, they had something already kind of in mind as far as the finishes go. What insurance coverages were recommended, marketing and branding elements, scheduling, our billing system implementation, staff training. Also in our situation, curriculum, sound mitigation, so we don't bug our neighbors too much. Those were all really good things and helpful things that a franchise provided. Also, franchises can help you leverage their size to get better pricing for equipment and services. Even, what are other Bach to Rocks paying for cleaning service or bookkeeping, and who are they using? And, do we have a preferred deal with a payroll company and things like that, which sounds awesome. So why is it not awesome? The bad thing about franchises, not specifically ours, but bad thing about franchises, you're paying for those services, whether you think initially you are or not, but you're paying through the initial franchise fee. Generally you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars to join a franchise. So even just to kind of get in the door, to have that opportunity to have your territory, you're probably looking $40,000, $50,000 initially. Secondly, you've got more royalty fees. There's a monthly fee, probably between 5 and 10% of your gross revenue, plus national marketing funds of probably 3 to 5%. It just depends on the companies. They all vary. If you're a person who likes to color outside the lines, a franchise may not be your thing, because you do have to follow a lot of rules. And I use this as an example. If you are doing a pizza franchise, you got to make the pizza the same way. The expectation is if you have a Papa John's pizza, the one that they order is hopefully going to be the same in West Palm as it is in Tampa. You can't, add items to the menu because your grandmother has an awesome goulash recipe and you want to put it on the menu. You can't redesign the logo or ad campaigns. You can't redesign your location because you like something that's shabby chic. It just doesn't work that way. You have a defined territory, so it's possible that somebody could open another location. You see that with Subways and restaurants all the time, but you only have so much protection of your area. Radius is, sort of defined areas depending on the franchise of how much space you'll have to operate. But in my situation, the closest Bach to Rock is Orlando and Jacksonville. So I didn't have to worry about it for Tampa. But also, I'd have to pay extra to expand my territory and have a first right of refusal for Tampa. So if I want to open a second location, or let's say that somebody is interested in a Tampa location, I've done a lot of legwork initially for opening up a brand here or franchise that was fresh and new to the market. Those people get to piggyback on all of my work. So if I don't have plans to open that, I hopefully would have a good relationship with them and we could work together. But that is always the challenge. You do a really good job of establishing that franchise's brand in a new market, and then somebody else could potentially step in. In our case, the layout of the facility, the colors, even where we put posters, bathroom tile, logo sizes, all the things that you saw in the picture, that are in there, those are things that have to be pre-approved. If we have any variances or anything that we want to do, which I did have some, I didn't want mine to look completely like the one in Phoenix or the one in Portland. I had to submit waivers and make my case of why I wanted my things to look a little bit different. When you're comparing mine to the other 44, yes, there's a lot of consistencies. And they'll have a similar look, but same curriculum, same processes for the most part. But we can put our own spin on things. But and generally, the philosophy is if you're buying into a franchise, you're hopefully going to be buying into what they're doing. I tell people, especially who are talking to me, new franchisees that are looking to get into Bach to Rock, you're going to like about 80% of what they do, and 20% of it you're not going to love. It's almost like getting married to somebody. You don't love everything about your spouse. If my spouse is watching, I love everything about you. But if you are in a situation where, you're getting married to somebody, they're going to do stuff that you would do differently, but just ultimately you guys are going to have the same goals in mind. You're going to have, things where you're going to have the back, and, the franchise and the franchisee have similar goals. You want to make money. You want to do the right thing. You want to offer it. There's a reason that you pay all this money for their support. But also at the same time, there's some things that you just kind of go, in my local market or in my situation, in my territory, I don't think that maybe this program is as relevant as it is in DC or something like that. I looked at it, and I think that when we did some apples to oranges pricing of opening our own music school versus using a franchise, we could have done the build out for a lot less because we didn't have to have the same look or finishes or all those things. But I think also we would have probably lost money on the other side because there's no guarantee that our landlord would have even accepted us. If I came into our plaza, which has a lot of, Tijuana Flats, T-Mobile, Jersey Mike's are all our neighbors. They're all franchises. So I'm not sure as a first-time business owner if they would have been doing cartwheels going, here's a brand new business that has no history, and we're really excited to welcome them in because in 6 months, if they go bankrupt, we've got this location and not sure what to do with it. I'm not sure the SBA would have approved the amount of money that we would have needed to do the launch as significant as what we did to open our business. We're probably at $400,000 to launch it, between the build out, the marketing, the equipment, having some funds, set aside, just some resources that we needed. It's not cheap to get into it. So, if you are looking to go in that route, expect it to cost a fair amount of money. And yes, you can shave a few things here and there, but do the analysis back and forth. If it's something that you think you can open a pretzel company store, without being Annie Ann's, and you think that you can make that work, look on paper before you go into it, and before you make that commitment. Because once you sign with a franchise, your agreements are probably going to be a 10-year agreement, so you're in this for a while. And a breakup is really hard to do. So just keep that in mind. Um, One of the things I also wanted to talk about was how to leverage, how I call it my useless skill set, because, as I kind of started talking to other industries and things, they weren't particularly interested in the fact that I was Bubba the Love Sponge's boss. That didn't really mean anything. How are we going to move more widgets? Oh, but, you hung out with the Foo Fighters for one day. So, I needed to figure out my useless skill set and where it was important, and also, some of the relationships that I had. So as you kind of look at some of the pictures that were flying by, there was pictures of billboards. There was a Kids Day thing at the stadium. There was Lutz magazine. And I use those examples because I got a lot of help from some old friends when I was going to help market my school, because I'd worked for Clear Channel Radio for a long time and bought media. I went to those resources. So I spent a lot of money at the Mahaffey and with the Rowdies. So, I asked my friends at the billboard company for some help with pricing when it was time to launch. I asked Sharon, hey, can you create something? I don't have a ton of money, and I know, I'd like to do something, but they have this big Kids Day. How do I not become just a 10 by 10 tent at this thing and be, doing something more significant? So could we work out some sort of cash or trade deal? I bugged Lutz magazine months before we even opened on, just coming to check out our school. It's going to look awesome. And they got really excited about it. I let everybody know that I could possibly know. Hey, I'm going to be a franchisee. I sent them pictures of other schools. I put stuff on a tablet and walked into schools in our area that were within our radius, and met with McKittrick and Claywell and Hammond and Schwarzkopf and everybody else, to let them know, hey, this is what my business is going to do. This is what we're going to look like. I could come out and DJ at your school events for free and save you money, but I want to put up a tent. And I started working those relationships before I'd even hired Steven. And Steven was one of my early significant moves, to hire him and have him as an ally when we were going through training and launching and all those things. But, I was beating on doors really early. And, when I started talking to any of the media outlets, I went to Channel 10, I went to Fox 13 to talk to them about Charlie Belcher. We didn't even have approval from permitting at that point. So I started really, really early. But the useless skill set parts, what I kind of was taking for granted, or other people may have been taking for granted, what I found was those were useful things to open a business, because I knew a little bit about P&Ls from doing events. I knew, from doing events, how to activate from a tent rather than just waiting behind a table. How do we engage with people? How are we going to create noise? I knew about social networking and how it worked. I knew about eye contact and how to build databases. I knew that I could get data from the billboard company on traffic counts and things when I was going to select my location. And it also was really useful for my business plan for some of these things as well. My thought going into this thing, I'm like, look, I may fail at this thing, but I'm going to ask everybody. I strongly urge you, don't assume they're going to say no. I literally had nobody tell me no. I had people tell me, well, I can't do exactly what you may want, but let me tell you the 5 things that I can do for you. Again, let me stress this. Don't assume people are going to say no. I went to the billboard company and I said, look, I know this billboard costs this much. I've got this much money. Can you do something where instead of doing a week, maybe I could get 2 weeks? And they came back to me and they said, look, we can't do 2 weeks. We're really sorry, but we can do 3 weeks for you at that rate, which is ridiculous. So because I had relationships and they were just wanting me to launch and do something, they were willing to invest into me. Was it ridiculous that I would, be able to get Charlie Belcher here on the second day that we were open to do 3 hours live? Yeah, maybe. I know that's what he does, but there's a lot of other things out there, and this is a big market. So, I just asked a lot, and I just bugged people. So work early and don't assume everybody is going to say no. They're going to be helpful. Also, when it comes to the skill set, learn things. If you don't have the skill set, save yourself some money and learn it. If you've got the time, learn graphics, learn videos, learn social networking. These are all free things that you can do, so you don't have to pay somebody to do it. If you don't know about media buying, you've got a great resource in Cookie. She's a cabin member, but that's what she does for a living. She's done this for a while, even though she looks like she's 19. She has done this for a while, and I assure you, She is knowledgeable about how to help you launch your business, whether it's radio or TV or print or whatever you're going to use. And there's a ton of business owners and successful people that are in this organization. Ask them. They will help you. I mean, seriously, there are great people who will help you on the things that you don't know. If you know somebody who buys a lot of ads, call them. I mean, call them out of the blue. Say, look, I'm opening up a business. It's not, going to be competing with you. How do you guys do your thing? What's working for you? You're in my area. Just make sure that you kind of utilize those partnerships and start asking people early, way before you get to the point where you're going to be, opening your doors. Don't try to do it 5 days out. You're going to freak yourself out. Don't do it. But do it early and ask often. For my specific situation, why I selected music education as a business, Stephen's going to talk about why it's important, and that's really what we do, is why our business is important. Not that other businesses aren't important, but why music education as a whole is important. But we being my wife and I, we looked at a bunch of different business ideas. 15 years ago, she had this crazy idea to open a place where you could go in, you could get one cupcake, and then you could leave with that cupcake and maybe some coffee. And our family thought that was the dumbest idea that we'd ever heard. Who's going to go buy one cupcake and then leave a place? So we shot down that business idea, and I don't even know what happened with that. I guess maybe nobody ever ran with that idea. But we thought about mini putt-putt, in the Lutz and area. We thought about organic ice cream trucks because everybody was on a health thing, but maybe that's something that we could do. We had a lot of different ideas. But when we found out that funding was easier with franchises, especially being a first-time operator, unless we did something really small, which we weren't sure if that's what we wanted to do, we looked at several different franchises. We looked at drive-through convenience stores. We looked at home health care. But a business friend of mine said, what do you love? What do you really like? Because you're going to be married to this franchise. If you sign up for this thing, you're going to be married to them for a significant period of time. So, if you have a 10-year agreement, in year 5, are you going to be excited about what you're doing? Are you going to be in love with that business still after 5 years? Is it something you're going to be excited to go to work every day? So I looked at several different music things. I love pizza, but I didn't want to be in that business. So for me, music was something that was always in my life as an employee. So, I thought, well, let me look at those. So I looked at, different music companies, retail outlets that sell gear, even just, businesses where we'd have bands and things like that would go out and play within the market. Or supply music from like DJ companies. And actually there's a guy named Greg Wolf that does that, who does an amazing job with it, but it's very similar concept. But, what I saw was music education was a booming industry. There's a lot of people who are doing it, some of them better than others. But I also kind of thought, okay, in addition to doing something for us, is there something we can do for the community? I want to feel good about what I'm doing. Selling somebody, a soda isn't really fulfilling to me. I wanted something that, if we offered it, it'd be significant for years to come, that, we taught a kid how to play guitar, or we gave them an opportunity to perform at something. In one of the situations, like Jeanette's daughter, she had a chance to sing the national anthem on the pirate ship in Raymond James Stadium before an event. Thank you, Kaba. But that was a huge thing for her, and that's significant. I think it just is impactful, for kids years down the road, that maybe they'll look at it and go, gosh, that was really cool when I was at Bach to Rock and we had a chance to play at the Oktoberfest in Wesley Chapel, and my band played and people cheered and it was super cool and we were awesome and we signed autographs. And I don't know if they really did that, but it's kind of just a neat feeling to do something like that. So for me, that was important. Because I had a background in the music industry, it helped me with my SBA process, but also just as far as for a business, I wanted something that felt good to me and that I was comfortable with. And I think that there was an acceptance from the lenders and things like that I had at least some knowledge. And in some cases, I made it sound really like, hey, these are all the significant things that I did in the music industry, and I know how to play 422 instruments and things like that. But, I leveraged all of that in order to pick what we were going to do. So I'm going to hand it over to Stephen, because he's going to talk about what we really do, which is music education and and why that's significant.
So yeah, music education. It's no secret that there's been study after study after study done that shows that kids that learn music while they're in school, however it may be, whether it be music theory or going into a specific instrument, if you join the orchestra, the band, the drum line, whatever it is, it's said that students tend to do better in school than academically. Music is a language through and through. And I think a lot of people don't understand that there is a lot more that goes into it than just being able to play the instrument. You have to learn how to read music. You have to learn how to write music. You need to be able to listen to it and then interpret it to somebody else. So it really does play into a lot of key factors within public school or private school. You also play into math. There's an obnoxious amount of math involved in music, counting and multiplication, division. Like it almost sounds not fun when you start putting it that way, but it is. At the end of the day, it's so many life skills that are put into effect just by learning how to play an instrument or play a song or get into a band. It is a great, great experience through and through. You're expanding knowledge in a way that you wouldn't normally be able to utilizing core concepts within school. But on a more important side of it, you also have the social aspect of music. I've got a few different students that come in today, actually, that when they first started here, they were the quiet kid. They were shy. They didn't really open up at all. They just kind of came in because they like music, and this was something that mom or dad signed them up for. And so they're like, all right, I'm just going to learn music. And 2 years later, here we are, and those same students walk in, and they own the place. They know who they are. Everyone knows who they are, and they just have come out of their shells so much. It just gives you an avenue to kind of express yourself in a way that's uniquely yours. And it's important to kind of give people those avenues, to give kids those avenues, especially we have a lot of teenagers here. That's a life-changing area of your life. When you're a teenager, you're very easily moldable by every and anything around you. So if you can involve yourself in music and have a passion in something that is expression and it isn't hurting anybody else, then I think that's something we should foster. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that here, and it's shown in a lot of our students. I know that Rick can speak for one of our students, Tyler. He's the key aspect of that. He's the one that I would put on the pedestal over anybody else that's come out of his shell so much. But music education really does kind of come through and through to a lot of different worlds. And I think we do a good job of kind of fostering that.
And I'll throw something else on top of that too. When we talk about music education, it's not just about for kids too. And one of the billboards that we had up there was, it was on Pop's bucket list. We have a pretty significant amount of adults who come here. They're retired, they're looking for something to do. And they said, I bought a guitar 15 years ago. It's been sitting in the corner for a long time. Or, I always wanted to sing, or I wanted to do something at church on the piano, and I just didn't feel like I had the confidence to do something like that. So even with some of the adult learners, you see that those are things that they're really uncomfortable at first when they come in here, and then they just kind of realize it's like, well, first of all, if that 8-year-old can figure out how to do it, then maybe I have the chance to be able to do it too. So it's not just the kids that are going through that experience as well. We do have a lot of people who are coming in here, and they almost kind of like tiptoe in and feel guilty that they've bought a drum set and never touched it, and they hang clothes on it. So there's something to that too, as far as the education part of it. I really do think that the confidence, whether it's our school or another school, I don't really care, for them to be able to do something. And even if it's not significant success, nobody is expecting a kid to come in here and be Jimi Hendrix or Van Halen or an amazing saxophone player or anything like that. Some of it's just being able to go through. They're just happy to be able to play a song. Or I went to the campground and I had my guitar and I played the beginning of Wonderwall, and dude, I was the most popular guy in there. So, that's kind of cool when you hear some things like that. So, that's the part of me as an owner that I go, man, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good doing what we're doing, rather than, another business that we could have run with. I'm going to run through this real quick because this is the last part that I got, because I know we have to have questions and things like that. But I'm going to run through my tips on leasing commercial property, construction, and marketing. So I'm going to blaze through these. So we started off, if you saw the picture, there was a whole lot of dirt. That's what we started off with. So I knew zip about construction. I should have gone to Sharon's husband and asked some more questions, but I didn't. But when it comes to these things, I will tell you, when you're starting off with something like that, even before we got to the dirt part, and I owned the dirt, we needed a commercial agent to come and help us. A real estate agent is a must. An attorney, franchise attorney, a real estate attorney. Don't assume that you're doing a deal with a franchise and they are offering you the very best deal that they possibly can. There's some things you can't negotiate, but there are some things that are negotiable. Having a franchise attorney or a professional look at that, or a real estate attorney go through and look at your lease agreement, because I was overwhelmed when I saw a 100-page document. And there was a lot of things that needed to be negotiated in there. It's not just, price per square foot and what the CAM is. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that if you get into year 4 and you said, man, I wanted to do this, but I didn't realize that I couldn't put, logos on my front windows, that it's against the agreement because there's a signage no in there. I mean, those are things that your real estate attorney can help you. If you imagine buying a house is stressful, think about a situation where you're dealing with a franchise who's had things run through a zillion lawyers, or a lease agreement that's run through, probably a hefty pile of lawyers. You need somebody who's going to take a look at it for you. You may not realize that there's personal guarantees or even what those mean when you're going in to negotiate it. There's a lot of scary stuff in there. So make sure you know what you're getting into. The other part when it comes to construction, and I always thought, hey, man, we're going to have an architect draw this up and we're going to be open in 2 months. It's going to be hot diggity damn. We're going to get going. Permitting sucks. You have to do permitting. And in Hillsborough County, they like to, stretch it out, make it slow. In other places, it may be a week or two. Hillsborough County, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. In our situation, we had the person go on vacation right in the middle of our permitting, and they were the only person who could approve it. So we had to wait 2 extra weeks to get it through. And they told us we were lucky to get through on our first try, and we got through so fast, 6.5 weeks. But I urge you to get a professional, get a great architect, get somebody who can submit your paperwork. Yes, you can go through and fill it out, but unless you're awesome at it, pay somebody to do it. It's worth the $500 or $1,000 you got to pay to do. And then, I talked about this earlier. Start talking about your business early. Join organizations like CABA well in advance. Don't wait until a month out. Start talking up your business and networking. Start meeting with potential partners. Like in our situations, we needed relationships with schools. I had no idea I had to go to Hillsborough County and get fingerprinted and approved, and that takes time. And I'm glad I went in early and, got the little yellow badge so that I could go into schools. It's really important, to start establishing those relationships with PTA members and things like that. And I didn't know the process, so it gave me some time to do it right. Work on your marketing early. And I'm going to kind of, hit on this because we did it early because that was my comfort zone, but I really urge you to do it because once you start getting close to opening, the wrapping up of your construction, hiring people, training, the actual opening to get ready to open your doors for your business, even if it's something that's not brick and mortar, those things are going to consume your life. So ordering banners, collateral, negotiating ads, trying to develop those partnerships. Do it while you got the time when you're not going to be sitting there thinking about, I need 2 more people to work a counter. And I don't know what's going on with the construction, but the fire marshal hasn't signed off on. Dude, that stuff's stressful. So get started early, try to knock out things that you can knock out earlier. And that's it. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions or if I've, kind of bored everybody to sleep, but fire away if you do. So I don't even know what the process is for the questions, but have at it.
We really just open up the floor and ask anybody if they have any questions or comments. I think
I do. I have a comment. You said something which is kind of crazy, but it's really true. Be careful what you ask for. That's a kind of crazy thing. And the other thing you talked about sometimes I did. You talk about billboards. You had so much money, but sometimes ask them to supersize it. Even on radio or any type of things, ask people to give more of their product to you on the deal, especially in these circumstances. You'll be surprised how many people will be receptive to that. But
or ask the right question too. I think, Jeffrey, you're talking about that. I even asked them, I said, hey, when are times that you're really looking for people? So I'm not going into the top dollar. when are times that I can buy ads or do things that is not going to be me bidding against everybody, and you have a lot of inventory, so maybe I can get a little bit more. I think that's really, important, what you said, just, ask that question, when can you get a little bit more, for my, tiny little budget. I want a mansion on a trailer budget. That's, definitely.
And things are tough right now too. And a lot of times offer to pay right away. You know what I'm saying? That's a negotiating chip. I mean, if you think about it, in a lot of your negotiations, the other person is doing all the heavy lifting, so to speak, and all they're really looking for is for you to pay. And sometimes that goes a long way as well. But just to ask people nicely, but at the same time to pay, sometimes, that goes a long way too.
I found that because of my relationships, Blackmail works really, really well. So keep that in mind too. It's always a kind of a good plan C for you.
I'm not following you.
Sharon, I promise you those pictures will never get out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, I know Cab is looking for their website to go viral right now, so that might be a help. So,
What happened at Busch Gardens stays at Busch Gardens. No, I don't even know. No.
Busch Gardens, okay. All right, that's monkey business.
Well, no pun intended there. There are monkeys there for sure.
Yeah. And alligators.
I can tell you guys, of course, Rick and I have been friends for a long time, but I still remember the day that we had coffee at Starbucks. I remember it was the Starbucks on North Del Mabry, right? I guess it was like North Mabry and Ehrlich. And he was telling me the story, and he hadn't done anything yet with the franchise, but he was telling me how they were planning and they were looking and all of the things that went into this, selecting the franchise and financing. And to me, and even I remember you talking about selecting the location, because I remember there was a location that you guys really wanted that was coming open, which I think is about on its 5th run now with a different business, and you were told no. And it's a good location like Fletcher and Dale Mabry.
Yeah, and they were talking, it was bad dirt is what they called it. I didn't know what bad dirt meant, but my real estate agent said that it's bad dirt, and so, just, I'd never done this thing before. I had no idea what bad dirt was, but when he said, look, if they're turning this thing over every year, that's probably, there's probably a reason why. Either it's poor management or the location isn't really great. So, those are things that definitely dodged a bullet, in some ways.
Absolutely. Because that's a big part too, your location, all of those details that you were walking through when we had coffee. And I watched what you did, and it's incredible. It's so impressive to see where you are now in 2 years. I mean,
let me tell you one thing that was a smart move for me. Not because I'm a bright guy, I just got really lucky. Because I've seen this happen with other Bach to Rock locations. And again, the formula is kind of the same, but one of the things that I think was really instrumental was hiring Steven, hiring the right person to be on your team. There's several Bach to Rocks that launched around the same time as us, and they've been through other site directors. You need somebody who cares about your business as much as you do. You need them to be able to do the job, but you really need that important person with you. And so, don't underestimate the ability of somebody to sabotage what you're doing and screw it up, no matter how great your plans are, your product is, because, if you have frontline people and you're counting on them, hire the best people that you can. I got really lucky. I hope you're not putting in your notice or anything today, Steven.
What he doesn't know is I'm 2 years into my 5-year sabotage plan.
Ooh.
Oh.
So I think that that's one of the things too, is, when you're going into it, you never know what you're getting yourself into, but just, try to make sure that you are, being open and honest with your, the people on your staff, but the people that you can really count on. And, hopefully we've made mistakes. Trust me, every business is. So it's not like we're dancing, all the time and skipping through the halls. There's significant things that we've gone, ooh, man, maybe I would have approached this a little bit different. Even we're talking about potentially opening a second location down the road. If anybody wants a progress report, we came through COVID. Okay. We had PPP money. We're almost back to where we were in February, and we were going guns blazing at that point. So we're doing very, very well. But if we get the chance to open another location, it gives Stephen an opportunity to grow, but also, for us to be able to open another location, to employ people, to be a partner in a different area. That's a huge thing for us too, because that's kind of the plan. As much as I need to fund my kids' college and do all those things, it would be really cool to be able to do a repeat performance of that.
I got a question, 2 questions actually. One, you said, I don't know if it was on this one, it was about $400,000 to get it all going. And when you're looking at a franchise, how long does it really take you to, before you make a decision to open one, do you project for you to recoup that money, or if you ever recoup it? And the second question is, where do you find a list of franchises maybe to investigate?
I would look up International Franchise Association, IFA. I'll take the second part first. That's kind of a good place to go. And you can put in categories. You can start looking at different things.
What was it? One more time?
Just look up IFA. It's the International Franchise Association.
Okay.
Start there and just kind of, start pulling categories or start looking through things, or, and I'm sure if you Google franchises, especially if you can narrow that a little bit, franchises that focus on feet or whatever you decide that it's going to be, you'll find a bunch of things that come up. But, the biggest thing is once you kind of narrow it down, start looking for something called franchise disclosure documents, FDDs. They'll usually want you to apply for something before they'll just randomly send it to you. So, but you can find them on the internet. As far as us, when we did our business plan, some of that information was provided to us because we had a franchise that provided numbers. So when you do a business plan, you have to use your projections for year 1, 24 months, 5 years, 10 years. Sure. And you're kind of doing it based off of numbers that are provided to you. I also had a couple of different people who sent me things that I probably should not have received from their locations, just so I could look at it and go, okay, well, how did your numbers stack up against that? So you just try to do your projections. And then once you get through that stage, you're going to meet with your banking person, and they're going to tell you to get through the SBA, you've got to inflate the crap out of these or reduce your expenses to make your margins look better.
Right.
Try not to show that you're going to lose money for a long period of time because, hey, in year 7, man, we're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So, to a certain degree, you have to inflate what you do. We inflated our numbers a little bit. We got there by reducing some expenses, or, maybe I wasn't taking a salary or whatever it may be that we got there. What I found was we actually exceeded all those numbers. Mm-hmm. So we were profitable sort of on paper after month 4. Which was pretty unheard of. I think there's one other franchisee in Bach that had come out of the gate, a little bit faster, but we were the second fastest. But that was significant. Now, mind you, we weren't paying rent for a period of time because we had gotten a credit for a build out and some things that really helped us. But when you're a business and you're starting off and 5 or 6 months into it, you're going, well, we're not making a lot of money, but at least we're not paying out and losing a lot of money. So, the fact that we were profitable quickly, some of it was pre-planning and trying to work ahead, and some of it was pure luck. We got a great location. We're close to Cheval. We have high household incomes. We have a lot of A-rated schools. We have a lot of things going for us. We got Jeanette's daughter to come here, and she attracted a good solid 30 fans of people who wanted to come. I mean, and I joke about that. I think referrals are really important. Having people speak kindly about your business and being nice to people. And, Jeanette will probably nod her head on this. I annoy parents. I talk to them. Hey, what do you do? What's your deal? I ask that a lot. It used to be easier with COVID because we can't have people in the lobby right now, but I ask that a lot. I found out there's people on PTAs. There's people who own businesses. There's people who have significant influence in the community. And if I hadn't asked the question, they probably would have just, looked at their phone for 30 minutes.
Thank you very much. I have to run to another meeting, but it was an awesome program. I appreciate it.
Steve, thanks.
Thank you.